So, okay, cool, we got a microphone. So, the last three speakers have been amazing, and the content has been very informative and heavy at times and things like that. And we're gonna wrap today and enjoy ourselves and laugh some, have a good time. And so, one of the things that I feel that I do best is conversations and communication. Hosting a podcast for the last 6 months now has been something I have really enjoyed. Getting to hold some deeper conversations with people that I've been fortunate enough to meet. And so I wanted to make this a little bit more like that. I'm not a technical coach. I'm not gonna sit here and give you the best information you've ever had of how to improve your deadlift, how to throw things or do any of this. I love the barbell. I love lifting. I've had some success in sports. I've had some injuries, but through all of it, strength and the barbell have been consistent. And one of the things I love about strength, and the thing that we all share in this room together, is that it doesn't matter where you were born, who your parents are, what genetics, what setbacks, any of these things, you can't outsource getting stronger. You can't pay someone else to do it, you can't buy it, and you can't fake it. It has to be done every day, consistently, forever. And that's something we all share. We all believe that a stronger life's a better one. And that's something that I absolutely believe in, as something that being stronger and in better shape allows me more options to experience a better life. So with that, I have brought up Derek Woodsky, someone I've managed to spend quite a bit of time with, and he's gonna help moderate and keep this disaster on the rails. So, no.
So the big thing that we talk about, especially with Matt and I over the years, is we talk about solidifying the vessel for progression in life. And so it's something that I'll talk a lot about in my own presentations, but like a lot of the speakers that have spoken, we don't know how long we got. We don't know what life's gonna throw at us. We don't know what we have coming up. But the one thing we know for sure is that we have this vessel, which is our self, our body, our mind, and our soul. If we solidify that vessel, we have the opportunity to have the best life possible, in essence. Now, the one thing we talk a lot about, and we've talked a lot about over the years, is the fact that you've had to change your vessel a number of times. You had a vessel that served a purpose, which was power sport in college.
Right.
You had a vessel that produced performances at the NCAA level. Then you transitioned that vessel into a world champion in the Highland Games.
Right.
Before you eventually had your vessel damaged. And then we had to take another change. Talk a little bit about the initial progression of how you perceived the development of a young athlete into an NCAA and then a world champion.
So, I think there's a lot that can be said for being willing to roll with how things are going. Kind of like the tide or any of these things. You can be really mad that the waves are coming and they're going to wash away your sandcastle. That doesn't change that the sandcastle is going to leave. So being able to kind of adapt and look at things, and these are a lot different chapters in my life. The athlete that I was in college was more focused and very into these small details of what throwing in college was going to be, trying to throw. And while I appreciate what Dustin said, I was not a very good collegiate thrower, if anyone's curious. I was very average in a lot of things. So I didn't see a ton of success there other than I had school paid for, and I got to graduate at some point. They said I didn't have to go anymore. But I loved it. I still loved lifting and I loved throwing. But that time comes to an end when you finish college as a thrower who's not gonna pursue the Olympics. And so that shifted, I got out of it, kind of fell out of the barbell, and then moved into some different things with, opened a bike shop that failed, and then eventually found the barbell again and got back into strongman and powerlifting, and saw some moderate success in both. Strongman, I was pretty competitive as a heavyweight on the national level. Probably would have been top 5 or so in the country whenever I was doing it, nothing spectacular. And then in the powerlifting, had some success there. The thing that I loved about both of those sports was the training. I really loved this time that I got to spend with these guys in the shared community and the conversations we had while we lifted, and that perseverance through injuries, and then the problem solving of how do we get better at this without pushing too hard that we're going to suffer injury and have a setback. Those were the things that I really fell in love with. The problem I had with strongman and powerlifting was that I did not enjoy the competition environment. And for me, it was too serious. As a thrower, one of the things I've always loved about throwing was I felt throwers were always a bit in on the joke because no one gave a shit about the thing we were doing. So it was cool. We did it for us and we hung out with other throwers. This is great. We're in on some weird loophole of athletics that we get to travel around and have school paid for and compete. Meanwhile, during the week, I'm outside in short shorts drinking water with sunglasses on at practice. It's great. This was much better life for me than, say, what I saw the LSU's football team doing, dragging their pads with them to load up on a bus. So I loved that, and I remember that competition environment. And then I eventually stumbled and changed things up and made my way into a Highland Games and did my first one and loved it. I knew this automatically was what I wanted to do more of. But I already had a background over the last 5 years of that, of doing powerlifting and doing strongman. So I brought in a bunch of strength on top of then already knowing how to throw. And that played very, very well. 2009 was my first season in Highland Games as an amateur. Had some success. 2010, I won an amateur world championship. 2011, I won 2 amateur world championships. That's right, we're the type of sport that has 2 of those. 2 world championships as an amateur, which somehow got me an invite to the professional world championship 2 weeks after that, as my first professional competition being a Worlds. Went in and took second place overall to Dan McKim. And we threw against each other for the better part of a decade.
With that brings up a good point, because you had a lot of success in the world of Highland Games, but it's really important that we make this point because people may not know this. So you were not the biggest guy in the sport.
No. So, yeah.
Very strong.
Very strong.
Now, something I know
well,
about
relatively.
Relatively strong.
Yeah.
Now, something I know about you, and I want you to talk about this because I think it's really important to the psychology of what's made you successful with the questions that are coming, is you believe so strongly in yourself and your fundamentals of athleticism that you've always believed yourself to be a gamer.
Yes.
You always knew you could win. And now you're winning in another avenue. But talk about winning in sport, and then we'll talk about how that transcended into life.
So I think one of the lessons as coaches and mentors or whatever it is that we miss a little bit is the big picture of why we compete. We compete so that we're forced to be uncomfortable and we can adapt to it. And for me, that was something, that's really what I loved. That moment of having the butterflies and it came down to it, and that bit of pass-fail. Now's the time, there's the accumulation of all the work that we've done. Can I get it done? And very few times as a competitor are you gonna have a perfect scenario. Are you gonna be well rested? I competed 22 times a season in about a 6-month window around the world. I've never slept in my own bed the night before I competed. And I've had a bunch of ugly flights, as any of the guys who do Highland Games know how it goes. And one of the things I've always been confident in, and if it's me versus you, and I've got a throw left, it's on. I'm comfortable there. And that's one of the monikers that's gone, for those not familiar with my brand, HVIII brand, is always party. So it's spread hate, always party. And that always party bit is being prepared to take advantage of that moment. Like, this is why we do it. And that carries on past being able to compete. So past that, I'm very comfortable in a situation where, can I perform today? Can I get it done? Am I tired? Am I not slept enough? Have I not had food? Do we have a bunch of meetings? Do we have some things that we're gonna have to accomplish that things are not ideal? Basically always. There's never gonna be a time that the planets aligned and things are perfect. You can't prepare for that. You just gotta get it done. And so knowing that you've got like that level of confidence in yourself because you've done it a bunch, that you've been able to have your back against the wall and take those butterflies and anxiety and deal with that in its own way so that you can perform when it counts, because this was your job. This is why you were supposed to do it. This is what we train for. This is why we do it. We don't train for the sake of that. We train for that single moment of being able to put it together when it fucking counts. That's why I did it. And that's what I always loved about it, and that's what I've loved about going forward with it into business, into anything else, is this monster's got to constantly being fed. Right. And you're finding different ways to be uncomfortable now that I'm not competing with the podcast or anything else, or doing this.
Yeah, when you look at your podcast, you look at your business, but when you're talking about that psychology, the psychology of excellence, the psychology of finding a way to win, the psychology of personal belief that is so instilled in yourself that you can project it into the universe, and you did it, you won the world championship.
Right.
That's a psychology that is belief to the core of your being. So how did that change when you had it all taken away from you from injury?
So that was a very, very interesting perspective change. To make a long story slightly longer, my old man passed away in 2014, died of pancreatic cancer. At the time, he was 62, I was 31 years old, and we've had a great relationship. Dad was awesome. I had this feeling of, am I halfway there? Is this halfway over? The life experience and everything I'm ever going to do is half my time gone. And so that realization of that really put this emphasis on the ticking clock of like, let's take advantage of the time that we got. And let's do the things that are important to us. And let's push ourselves. Let's be uncomfortable. Let's make things count. Let's make time slow down by digging a little bit deeper in and finding new life experiences. And having that work and confidence in yourself that comes from being a competitor and getting it done when it happens time and time again, that starts to carry over, and then that translates to everything. So you know that when you've got a thing coming up, and maybe you're not fully prepared or haven't done all the homework or any of this other thing, you have this bit in you to say, I'll perform, I'll do it, and I'll be fine. And part of the way that I managed those thoughts and competition anxiety and what you put on yourself because of the time that you've trained and all this invested in it, and anyone you feel that you owe this time to, was I just kept remembering none of this matters. While I'm very, very fucking proud of what I did as an athlete competing, and I love the Highland Games. I love that I got to throw and compete in this sport. But let's not pretend in the 14 billion years the universe has been here and how long Earth's been spinning and how infinite time is, how far I throw a rock today in a field really fucking registers. Let's have some perspective, realize this is simply a thing I love to do and I've prepared for. Do your job. And that's it. You do your job. And that's how I looked at those competitions.
So when you look at competition that way, and you look at, say, throwing a stone or throwing a hammer or doing these events as an expression of yourself, an expression of your psychology. When you look at yourself as you transition into business with Hey Brand and eventually the podcast So, when you look at these transitions, the loss of your father, how significant was that in the reminder that you needed to get up every morning and go to work?
Very. My old man, as that generation did, spent 35 years as a boilermaker working at a refinery, puts both of my brother and I through college, as they do, just had started moving into retirement, and he and mom are going to travel and do these things they've waited on, diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and dead in 11 months. Fuck your plans. They don't exist. The universe doesn't care. We have now. Whatever happened yesterday and the sins that you've made and those bad decisions, you can't change those. But we can change now, and we can change how we go forward. You can't be all ant and you can't be all grasshopper. But this is the time that we got, and time is the only commodity that you can't buy any more of. So take advantage of that time. So if you're one of those people who keep looking at yourself and you say, we'll do this Monday. It's already Friday, let's do it Monday. Fuck that, now's the time. If this is important, now's the time. And then value your time. Value your time so you look at it in a way that this is a commodity that I'm not willing to waste mine with you. I'm never gonna do things anymore that feel like I'm here simply out of obligation. I'll just say no. You can say that. You can just say no to doing things. whether that's a weird party on the weekend or any of these other type of things, you can just not go do that because there's a thing you want to do more. Or do nothing. But if you're going to go, realize that that was your choice, be present, and be involved, and be fully there, and take advantage of that time. You know, that idea that time passes so quickly now, and how do you slow things down? I think about getting injured and spending, in the last 2.5 years, I spent 20 weeks in a straight leg brace and on crutches between 7 knee surgeries. I don't have anything of real significance to tell you that happened in those 20 weeks. I laid around on a couch, I played a bunch of video games, and made some Instagram posts. But last summer, I got to go with 6 of my friends to Iceland for 10 days. And I can talk to you for hours about that trip and those life experiences and those shared conversations and those shared moments. That time has slowed down compared to the 20 weeks. This time has more weight for me, the time being here with you guys. This time is slower than what I would be doing going to an office every day, waking up, driving to a place that I don't give a shit about, to do things I don't care about, to fill out paperwork I'm not interested in, to end up going back to a house that I have to leave and go do a thing I hate to afford. This is a circle we all get caught in. And I don't want to do it anymore. I'm okay with the idea of making less money to have more quality and control over the time that I have in existence. I know with my dad passing away, I'm sure of at least one thing, and that is it will die. Maybe with modern science and my income, 160, 170, who knows? But it's gonna happen. And so as of today, I got one less day. That is X minus 1 for the time that I have left alive. Forever's not a thing. You don't have really tomorrow. There's nothing that says I make it back to my hotel this evening. Be aware of that and take advantage of the time you got and don't put it off. And that's really what I got from Dad passing away, was that we had plans. We were gonna do these things.
Right.
Oh, they're gone.
They're gone.
And you're dead, and they're gone.
Right. And so now you have the memory of a father that you had that's since left. And that puts you in a situation where now you're looking ahead at your life and you're looking, as you say, potentially half done. Right?
Yeah.
And when you start to look at that, you start to develop the concept of hate brand, and you start to look at what you're doing. For those that are following you, they only see through the window of social media for the most part. And they see that you're always traveling, you're always moving, you're always interacting. Now, a thing that's always struck me interesting, especially with the way that you live your lifestyle, it hasn't always been this way. So there was a time where in which, you know, you got the pink slip, you got fired. You've been fired from security, and it forced you to react in such a way that you had no choice but to become the self-sufficient, minute-by-minute achiever that you're now building yourself into. Talk to people about what it is like in this world, because a lot of us have had it happen, to have the carpet pulled out from under you and realize that you're going to have to stand on your own 2 feet to be successful.
So 2014 in October, so after my father passed away, prior to that, I had started writing a few books for the Highland Games. I figured I'm doing this thing, I'm enjoying it, I'd like to share information for people who I don't believe know how to train for this sport in a full year capacity the way that we did with track and field. So I shared that information, the hate's something I talked about in it, and that translated eventually into October of 2014 starting a brand. Fast forward to the brand is doing its thing, I'm enjoying it, it's starting to make some money, and I've got a real job this whole time. I work outside sales in the petrochemical industry, I have a great job, but I've started this now side thing that I don't need income from in my spare time because I need an outlet. I need this thing, you know, and the way we built the business too is we'd outsourced it so that I knew I didn't have time to pack boxes or do any of these things. So from jump, we planned it to be fully scalable. So whether we sold at that time, whether we sold a thing today or 3 things today, my time doesn't change. So I can keep doing the creative side of things and keep driving forward and keep trying to make those decisions. And so as the company develops and things keep going forward, We get to 2017, March, so a little over a year ago, I got fired from the real job. And I'm really glad that after the 2.5 years that got me there with HVIII brand, I have a viable thing. I have a plan B that's already in the works. I'd have been really sad had I taken that phone call that morning and then walked back in my house to look at my wife and be like, got fired, thinking about selling t-shirts. She'd have been like, nah, probably not. But we already had momentum going. And so the lesson I got from that was, like, I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. So we've got different avenues and things that can develop. You know, the old business model that worked for my parents of going to this place for 35 years and working in a cubicle and taking your 2 weeks vacation still exists for some, but not for most of us in our generation. Things are different and things have changed. And so learn how to use that system too. Most of the people I know who are doing well have 5 jobs. That's part of it. There's a bunch of different revenue streams and things that pay you. And so you learn how to build the safety net from that. It's been interesting, and it is a constantly growing thing. There's never a point where I just feel like, we got this figured out. There's no fucking clue what we're doing. None.
So how much of your ability to adapt to the world of strength and conditioning from the past in your life, the ability to be this adaptive entity that continuously pushed and grew and chased and tried to become a champion at the world level, how much of that psychology of being, you know, we downplayed a little bit, but let's not bullshit. You're a fucking winner.
Yep.
Winners win. Winners do that. That's the mindset. So we're not going to pretend that you're not a winner in your mind.
Right.
So how much of that type of achievement mentality was the difference maker between someone out there right now, because you could give the advice, in the business world that wants to get into something like you've done with HVIII brand, and what you're doing? Like, what do you see that people are missing with their plan Bs and plan Cs? Where are they coming up short?
For me, like I said, I was very fortunate in the way the business organically developed because of me having a real job and knowing my own time constraints. So we built in a plan that we have someone who does our manufacturing and does fulfillment, and I don't have to touch it. So that I'm not stuck in a place, going to a place, doing a thing, because I had other responsibilities with that job. And so as that's changed and we've grown as a business, we still run things that way. And I mean, there's cost involved with that compared to doing it with yourself, but it's just being able to scale and being able to keep moving forward. And with that's gonna come changes. And things that worked a year ago for you as a business don't work now. The same as things that worked for you a year ago with training don't work now. But what never ever stops is you just can't hang it up. There's a big difference in being willing to adjust the sails of your boat to change direction and then abandoning the boat. Smart people can adjust the sails depending on how life changes and what shows up. It's okay to sidestep. You're not doing anyone a favor running your business or your thing or whatever it is you want to do by just continually smashing your head into the wall telling them this is going to work when you could just find a door. Be smart with it as well. Be willing to pay attention to your failures, because failure is one hell of a better teacher than success has ever been. Failure's great. You know, one of the things I heard recently was listening to an interview with Tim Kennedy. For those who don't know him, he's amazing, look him up. He was talking about what his goals are for training, and he said, I'm trying to find when I'll fail as fast as possible. Because when I find it, I can say, not today. Not today, we keep going. And that's your own threshold of what you've got to find. And being able to say that we don't quit. Now, we may need to take a sidestep. Look, if you get hurt and you've got an injury, don't be stupid. Don't keep smashing your hand into the wall thinking that's going to fix it. Learn how to adjust and be smart and be an athlete and listen to what's worked for you and what hasn't worked for you. Do more of this one and avoid the ones that are failures. But you can't look at the ones that are failures and feel like it's entitled for your success simply because you're working hard. That hard work equals success is bullshit. It's not true. This is a lie that we got fed as kids of you can do anything you want if you're willing to work for it. This is not true. What is true is hard work done for a very long time consistently yields progress. And everyone can make progress, and that's the same lesson the barbell will always teach. And that applies to everything in my life. Everything that I'm doing well has started because of when I was 13, I fell in love with the barbell. And that'll never change. That strong will always work, and I'll always get to pursue that.
Always. And I think in closing, the last thing that I really want you to talk about is the fact that, and this is really an important thing because it sort of brings together everybody that's in this room. So when we look at the Sorinex culture, we use that word a lot. Mm-hmm. Culture, it's a very powerful word. Sometimes, as Bert talked about, as Brandon talked about, it's misplaced. A lot of people try to develop culture before they develop anything else, and not realizing that the culture is a byproduct of the individual. It's not a thing.
Right.
So when you look at Hey Brand and I'm So, which is now your podcast, and one thing in particular that a lot of people probably don't realize is they do see this powerful social media network, because you're good at it, I'm not going to deny it. You know how to hit the pulse. But the thing that people don't see that you do, and I think it's important to talk about, is you have a powerful social media presence driven by face-to-face conversations.
Right.
So you're not faking it. You're going to see these people. You're spending your company's money. You're sitting down across the table. How important is it that you use real-life networking, as Bert says, the 3 feet across the table or right in front of somebody, and not the 3,000 miles to build your brand?
I think it's everything. I think those relationships that you build, I mean, I look at just how things develop, right? And I don't mean that you're going into relationships with this gross feeling of how to manipulate this thing into your own personal gain. I'm talking about meeting genuine people that you end up loving, that you learn from. And that's the game. It's not this weird ladder climb or you get to do this bit because they're cool and you can latch onto it, or maybe they repost you. It's the relationship. And I've told a lot of people, I've been very, very fortunate to talk to some amazing people that I've looked up to in the last 10 years. And it's not hard to get in front of some of these people to talk to them. The real trick is being someone they'd like to talk to a second time. And that is weighing on that this conversation and interaction that we're having one-on-one is for me. This isn't for the people in my phone that I don't know. They'll get whatever bits and pieces of it I can. But this is for me to learn. And that's why I love doing the podcast, and I love getting to have those things. I mean, I've known Bert for the last 10, 12 years now, right? And that wasn't my intention of the first time I came out to Sorinex. First time I came out to Sorinex, I was on a sales trip, and I'd reached out as like, he does Highland Games. I think I want to do Highland Games. I'd like to talk to him in person. And because I was traveling for work so much, I started going to gyms and meeting people in person that I wanted to learn from. And that was Jim Windler and Bert, and making my way up to go see, Dave Tate or Mark Bell out in California. And I'd show up to these gyms, and none of these people know who I am, as they shouldn't. And I just shut the fuck up and listen to what they have to say. And it's another skill to be able to develop and listen to people talk. And if they've got 10 points to share with you, it's okay that only 3 of them matter to you. Sharpen your filter as well. Be able to say, this was important, this was a very good takeaway. Because the further you go and the better you get at things, the less information that's going to be totally relevant to you. One of those lessons I learned from Windler when I decided to write a book was, he said, know your audience. Your audience are people who don't know how to lift. If I sat down to write my book to impress someone like Cal, I've missed the point. He doesn't need my book. The guy gets it. And as do most people in this room, as does Bert, as does Derek, we get it. We get the barbell. That's why when we sit down and have dinner together, we're not talking about what program we're working on. We're talking about life. We're talking about your body so that it works as the machine that it could be to provide you with a better life than you would have not being stronger.
And in closing, when we look at everything that you've done from the athletics to the business, which is continuous, and the business today is going to be a different business for you 10 years from now.
Yep.
Hopefully you'll be retired.
I've never done anything for 10 years, so I'd be shocked if that one keeps up.
Yeah, probably. So when we look at that progress, and a lot of people are looking at you right now, and you're getting a lot of attention, which gives you also the ability to be a conduit for some ideas. And sometimes you'll be the medium of other great people, sometimes you'll be the inspiration of yourself that others will grow from. In closing today, if you were to take 1 point or 2 points that you're like, young coach, old coach, doesn't matter, someone that wants to get into business, keep these 2 things in check and you'll have a little more success with people.
So you're going to meet a lot of interesting people, right? And one of those ways you deal with it is realize you're probably not going to show up and impress them. I mean, if this is someone that you've seeked out and you want to learn from, I don't know how many times I go to a gym and there's a function or any of these other things, and the people that show up that are really excited to be there around the people that they've looked up to want to come in and like max out on lifts, when the people that they want to talk to are just standing around holding conversations. Go to the conversation, stop lifting. This is where the good shit's happening. I promise everyone in this room I've seen someone stronger than you. I'm not impressed by the amount of weight you lift. I'm more interested in who you are. I'm more interested in what the things that excite you. I'm more interested in why you do the things you do, or why are you attracted to the same things I'm attracted to. I don't give a shit about what you bench. It's a number. It's a thing you did, and it'll fade. But who you choose to be is something that people remember. And that's how you build relationships, and you do them genuinely. The other side of that is be fucking likable. Don't show up and be a prick. Be nice to people. People have given you their time. Take advantage. Remember that as important as you've decided that your time is, so is theirs. Show up on time. That shows immediately to the person that you're going to meet that their time's valuable to you. Better that you sit there and wait 15 minutes for them than them have to sit there and go, where's this guy? So those are the two, is show up and remember that you showed up to listen to them. If you drove across the country to go meet someone that you look up to and met them and then just talked about you to them, you missed it. Like, you had it. You have them there to learn from one-on-one about what makes them tick. Dig in. Most people want to talk. And like I said, number 2 is be a likable guy. It's not that hard to not be an asshole. I did asshole for a really long time and really good at it. And I prefer this.
Yeah, this works better.
Yeah, it seems better.
And that's one thing we've talked about extensively with the Sorinex family, with yourself, with friends of mine, is the most valuable thing that any one person can give to you is their time. Going back, talking about your father, talking about your life experiences, that's the only thing we don't have that's finite. And so in closing, just want to say thank you for sharing your story with us.
I appreciate it, brother.
And I'm glad that I could be a part of it. And thanks to everybody that sat through it.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. Thanks, man. Thanks for that, buddy. I'm only moderately sweaty. Fuck.
All right, that was an epic day 1 of
Here we go. I'm so sweaty. Jesus Christ.